This is Warhammer here. This is Warhammer. So, I think that I have confused some of my audience about making them think that I think that Japan and China are superior to Western countries, and that isn't the case. So, it is definitely true that Western countries are white and former white countries. Europe, North America, Australasia, New Zealand, South Africa. These countries are highly degenerate. They very much promote homosexuality and transgenderism. They very much engage in race mixing. They very much have non-whites, minorities, at the top. They have allowed their women to unleash their hypergamous nature and to select accordingly oofy doofies instead of actual alpha chads, like they did in a pre-industrial, pre-progressive age. So the West is highly progressive and highly decadent and very degenerate. But just because China, India, Islam, Iran, which is part of Islam, and Russia and Japan are less degenerate, that doesn't mean that they're not degenerate. So these non-Western cultures are not answers. The only real serious answer to really isolate yourself from progressive ideas would basically to live like an Amazonian tribesman. Like, you would literally have to break completely from civilization entirely and just become a tribesman on the Sahara, like the Bushmen, the Khoi Bushmen, or like, do like what the Amazonian Indians do, or like people in Madagascar, and just live a completely primitive life. So, which for a white person is absolutely impossible, because we are the most civilized and most progressive people in the world. So, the reason why China, Russia, India, Brazil, and Islamic countries, and Israel are less progressive is because it was not that long ago that they were traditional societies and were not industrial. Remember that Great Britain adopted progressivism and modernity back in the 1600s and the 1700s. America, at its very inception, adopted progressive liberal ideas from the get-go. The West has been doing this for 400 years, since the Treaty of Westphalia, basically. That's when liberalism really started to kick off, and the mercantile orders, of course, originated in Europe and North America. So naturally, North America and Northern Europe, and all of Europe really, besides Russia, are going to, for the longest time, have the most progressive ideas. China has only been doing this since Deng Xiaoping, since the death of Mao Zedong. That was back in 1979. So the Chinese, they only really gave up their traditions when the communists took power in the mainland. And that was only 75 years ago. That was more recent than the end of World War II. Russia only really started to adopt progressive ideas and tendencies either after the 1905 revolution or after the Soviet Union fell in the 90s. India really only started to seriously begin to industrialize and embrace the market in the early 2000s, or the mid-late 90s. Because India for a long time stagnated. Pakistan has just really gotten off the ground with Chinese aid, with industrialization. Iran has been industrializing since the Ayatollah, or the times of the Ayatollah, but it's really only been in the last 10 years that Iran has really highly industrialized and is slowly, very steadily losing its fundamentalist Islamic stunt and is beginning to indulge itself in westernization again. Brazil is just really poor, really disorderly, but, they will industrialize and accept progressivism. Okay? All of these non-Western countries, and of course Israel has been a developed nation since the 1970s. Israel is really highly into homosexuality and transgenderism, regardless of the Haskalah, and the kind of the Hasidic movement and influences. I mean, without that, Israel would be as liberal as Canada is. But Israel is probably leading the way with China in adopting and catching up to Western degeneracy. So, yeah, Israel, Russia, China, India, Brazil, Iran, Islamic countries, yeah, they are less degenerate than the West, but they're also, they're less industrial and less modern. But they will catch up to us. Okay? It's only been a shorter time for them since it has been compared to us. But they will catch up to us. And they will be just as pro-gay and pro-feminist and pro-progressive as we are. Okay? I mean, you see feminism in Israel taking over. Like, Israel is a matriarchal society. You see these boy bands in China that are influenced by South Korean pop bands, where these guys dress up as women. They take that from South Korea and from America. Japan is actually letting foreigners in. Like, Japan actually has, did you know that 2.1% of people in Japan are Muslim? The alt-right says that Japan is such a homogeneous society. Well, that's really starting to change. Islam from Indonesia and Sumatra and Malaysia and stuff is seeping into Japan and Taiwan and South Korea. So Japan has a pretty high rate of Islam. Now, there's a lot of native converts, too, from the native ethnic Japanese, but there is a pretty large amount of non-ethnic Japanese in Japan, and Japan has an even lower birth rate than many Western countries do, even Eastern European countries. So the Japanese are not making babies, and their age gap is really being disparaging. And they're also allowing a lot of immigrants into Japan and assimilating. So Japan is changing a lot. There's a lot of non-ethnic Japanese assimilating there, especially in Tokyo and Yokohama. Also, there's a lot of movement to make gay marriage legal in Japan. And in fact, it is legal in Tokyo, Yokohama, and it's also completely legal in Kyoto. It's also becoming quite legal in South Korea. So really, these Asian countries are embracing the exact same destructive tendencies as the West, especially Northeast Asia. Eventually, really, all of these non-Western countries are going to catch up to the West in terms of decadence and degeneracy. So I just wanted to make that clear to my audience. Russia, China, Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, Iran, Islam, Brazil, etc., are not really solutions to what is happening right now in North America and Europe. So that was basically it.